How's it going, everyone? This is the George here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Joker Folie Deux or Joker 2. Sorry if I mispronounced the title. Maybe I'll just call the movie Joker 2 for right now. And once again, stars Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, aka the Joker, as well as Lady Gaga and Brendan Gleeson, and also Todd Phillips once again returns to direct. And after the events of the first Joker movie, Arthur Fleck is in Arkham. He's being mistreated. He's having his moments. He falls in love with this woman. And we have basically a prison slash mental asylum movie with a courtroom movie, a musical, and romantic movie basically happening. So obviously the first Joker movie made a ton of money. It Before Deadpool and Wolverine came out this summer, it was the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. It is one of two R-rated movies to cross over $1 billion worldwide. So of course they're gonna make a sequel because this Joker 2019 was more financially successful than most of DC's movies, and that includes the DCEU basically. Besides Aquaman, no other DCEU movie made not made that much money. So it kind of made sense that the studio thought, hey, let's do a sequel to Joker. But what do you do with a movie that's basically a modern day 1980s Martin Scorsese movie, or a movie made today that Martin Scorsese would have made in the 70s and 80s? I guess you go with a comedy, not comedy, a musical starring Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, with elements of a prison movie and a courtroom movie, which I feel like each of these elements that were in the movie could have worked if they focused solely on that. In fact, I think the one element that worked the best in this movie was the prison movie element, which is basically the first half of the movie. We seeing Arthur Fleck in Arkham, how he is acting after what he did in the previous movie, his interaction with the guards and other inmates, meeting Harley for the first time, and learning more about her, learning more about himself, how the setup for this trial and how that's playing out. I think the first half of the movie, for the most part, was pretty good. In fact, I want to get into the positives before I get into the mixed and negative stuff, because there's a lot of stuff I do like in this movie, despite being so conflicted with this movie. Joaquin Phoenix is once again excellent as Arthur Fleck and Joker. He's not going to get nominated for an Oscar again, and if he does, I don't think he's going to win. He already won his Oscar for the previous movie, and I think he deserved it more for that movie. But he still gives a terrific performance. Lady Gaga is also great as well, and her singing in this movie was excellent. While I'm not a big fan of the musical numbers, which I will get into, or at least the musical sequences, her singing carried those sequences and at least made those sequences watchable and tolerable. Brendan Gleeson plays this corrupt officer at Arkham, and he's got he'll pretend to be nice to Arthur Fleck, but he really despises him, kind of thing. Really enjoyed his performance as well. There's really no bad performance in this movie. Some of the actors that came back from the previous movie, like Zazie Beetz, also gave a great performance as well. There's no bad performance in this movie, like I said. And the 1980s setting still looks great, especially how they capture what Arkham is like. They did such a great job of capturing the setting of Arkham, what a 1980s courtroom looks like, how the media of the 1980s is captured. The costumes look great as always, particularly, Harley and Joker's costumes and makeup design, terrific work. And as I said, I like the Arkham aspect of the movie. The courtroom stuff I'm torn on, because there's some stuff I do like about the courtroom stuff, particularly some of the testimony from some of the characters from the previous movie, getting their insight of what happened. But I also feel like getting insight of the events of the previous movie kind of gets stalled in regards to sequels. I remember, this might be a weird comparison, Frozen 2 did that, where they kept reminding everyone, hey, this is what happened in the first Frozen movie. Kind of feels like Joker Folie Deux does the same thing. It kind of keeps reminding us, hey, this happened in the first Joker movie and all that. And yeah, those events are important, but there's been sequels that don't overly remind us of the events of the previous movie. Basically, they remind us of the few key aspects, and it feels like its own story. And I also will say, I like the Joker cartoon at the beginning. I thought that was really good and well animated. They did a very good job with that. The score is once again excellent. Where I get frustrated, well, not frustrated, but disappointed and a little let down is the other stuff. First of all, the musical numbers, with the exception of one or two, there's one that I'm kind of mixed on. I wasn't impressed with the musical numbers. They marketed this movie as a musical, and the musical numbers were pretty disappointing. There was one that I really enjoyed. I'll give a minor spoiler, but the scenes in the trailer, it's that one thing where it looks like Joker and Harley are hosting their own show. I actually enjoyed that number. But the other ones, with the exception of one that happens in Arkham early in the movie, minor spoiler, that I was mixed on. Some good things in there, some things I didn't care for. Unless Lady Gaga is singing, it's really weak. And it's a shame because the effort they put into making the settings of those musical numbers they look excellent. Joaquin Phoenix is singing. I'm not a fan of. I don't think he sang that good. Maybe some people disagree with me. Not a big fan of that. As I said, the courtroom stuff. There was some stuff I really enjoyed in there, and then there was some stuff that I was disappointed with. And the thing that's frustrating with this movie is it feels like a bunch of movies combined into one. With the first Joker movie, it felt like it was borrowing from a few Scorsese movies from the late 70s, early 80s, but it felt like they were focused on the same theme as a crazy psychopath and how they go down this road. This one felt like it wanted to be a prison movie, such as Shawshank Redemption, although Shawshank Redemption is a million times better than this movie. It wanted to be a courtroom movie similar to My Cousin Vinny and A Few Good Men. It wanted to replicate some of the musicals from the 50s and 60s, and even more recently, La La Land. You never know, is this going to delve into like Natural Born Killers with the love story between Joker and Harley? Like, you don't really know what you're going to get with this movie, and it feels like they're just borrowing from different tones, different directions. And I felt like this movie could have been better off if it maybe had settled with a insight of Arthur Fleck's life in Arkham, maybe with some courtroom stuff, and maybe they could have fleshed out the courtroom stuff a lot better. And the third act is probably one of the most frustrating third acts I've seen in a comic book movie, because certain things happen in there that just, I feel like, if you've seen Spider-Man No Way Home and if you heard MJ's phrase, expect disappointment, you'll never be disappointed, I feel like that line describes the third act of this movie, because it feels like all this buildup that was happening in the first two acts, because despite the messy story, it was still a very interesting story, and you feel like it's building up to something, and then they make decisions in the third act that will leave audiences disappointed, let down, frustrated. It was just a really weird thing to happen. And I know what the thumbnail's gonna say, but maybe the thumbnail's probably a joke, like a lot of stuff in this movie, because this movie feels like it didn't need to exist. I mean, it's interesting to see like how people perceive the events of what happened in the first Joker movie. Seeing how Joker Arthur Fleck is like in Arkham, but ultimately with how the end of the way this movie ended, it feels like this movie didn't need to exist. And it's a shame because the performances are excellent. The setting looks great. Lady Gaga singing is excellent despite the musical sequences being a letdown. The costumes look great. The stuff in Arkham Asylum I thought was excellent. Some of the courtroom stuff worked, but then some of the other stuff didn't work, and it's just, I really don't know how to feel about this movie. There's a lot of stuff I like, and there's a lot of stuff I was left disappointed with. Now, is this the worst comic book movie of the year? No, Madam Web is a million times worse than this movie. At least in this movie, the performances were excellent, and I think it was definitely filmed a lot better. This is a well-made movie. The cinematography still looks great, and how they put the sets together look great. Is this the worst comic book movie in the last 5-10 years, or one of the worst? I wouldn't say it's one of the worst. There's been worse movies that have come out in the last 5-10 years, not just from DC, but even from Marvel, whether it's MCU or Sony or Fox before you know Fox stopped making Marvel movies after they were bought by Disney. But it's definitely the most disappointing, just because of how great the first movie was. And even though I know I said there was no reason for this movie to exist, you could have pulled it off if they had focused on certain stuff. It feels like they had good ideas in there, and each idea could have worked if they had just focused on that idea. But ultimately, it felt like they went all over the place. And yeah, Joker, Folie, do I mean, obviously, if you're curious about this movie, I recommend check it out. Do I think you should watch it in theaters right away? Probably not. You might be better off going to see Transformers 1 if you haven't seen it already. Um, but I feel like it is worth checking out at the very least, just to see, because everyone's going to have a different perception of this movie. But where the first movie, the controversy was, is this movie going to lead to violence? Is it going to glorify violence? The controversy here is going to be how the movie ended and the decisions that the movie made. So Joker Folie Deux, I've been going back and forth because there's a lot of stuff I like. There's a lot of stuff I was disappointed and didn't like. As of right now, my grade's going to be a C+. I wish this movie was a lot better. It had so much potential to be a lot better, but ultimately, despite the stuff that I enjoyed a lot, there is a lot of stuff I was also disappointed with. Almost feels like Last Jedi all over again. But it doesn't ruin the first Joker movie for me the way the movie ended. And there's a little reference at the end of the movie that I think was a nice nod, or interesting nod, maybe not a nice nod, but an interesting nod in reference to another Batman movie that I love. But yeah, Joker 2 or Joker Folie Deux. Have you seen it? What you think about it? And what do you think this movie should have been? Or do you think this movie should have even existed? Let me know in the comments down below. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already. If you haven't, please share us with someone that loved the first Joker movie, that is unsure if they want to see this movie or not, so they can get some more thoughts. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.